Hi, boys and girls. Mrs. Freeland here. Hey, today we're going to kind of think backwards from our writing. We're going to start with our writing, and then we're going to think back to stories we've read and how that might improve our writing. So I am going to go back to my story, and my story was about Sylvia, my daughter, getting lost, right? And I want you to think about the heart of your story. Like, did you want people to feel excited, sad, happy? Was it a funny story? Worried? How did you feel in your story? And what do you want people to feel when they read your story? What's the heart of your story? And I think the heart of my story was how I was really scared when I couldn't find my daughter, right? So I'm thinking, how could I make that stronger in my story? I used minutes and minutes passed. We couldn't find her. And then I added what I was thinking. But I don't know if I told like all the places we looked and how hard we looked for her. I said, ran outside to look for her. I yelled and yelled for her, but I couldn't find her. So I really could add some more right here about how I tried to find her. So I'm going to go to this part of our story right now. I think this is loading.
Jasmine hated the rain. It ruined parades. It silenced the horns and the drums. It tripped up the dancers and the dogs. It soaked new red suits.
So like she said over and over that she hated the rain and what it did. And she said, it did this, it did that, it did that. So she used repeating in her story. So let's see if I can find another spot real quick where it shows repeating.
Bang, walla, bang, bang. The rain crashed.
She does repeat the sounds, right? Let's see. I think that part that I showed you earlier right here, it did this, it did that, it did that, it did that. What if in my story, I used I looked here, I looked there, I looked there. So I'm going to go back to my story. And I'm going to think about using repeating in my story. I yelled for her, but I couldn't find her. I looked down the rows of trees. I looked up and down the road. I looked up and down the driveway. I looked everywhere. Okay, so I think that adds a little bit more of like what I was feeling and how I looked and looked and looked, and that really made me worried. So boys and girls, what you're going to do today is look back at your story and think, what's the heart of my story? How do I want to make it better? What could I add to? And then look back at some of the books and stories we read, or maybe in your Just Write books, for what that author did to make that part of their story better. And I know you can ask your teacher for suggestions too, because I'm sure your teacher might have suggestions on how you could make your story better. So you can go from your story and look back at books to get ideas on how to make your story better.